Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby here with Michael Esper of the hit new play Appropriate. And I have to, offer you congratulations and to everyone with Appropriate because, Broadway can be a tough industry. And it's, I think, frankly, rare to see a non-musical play generate this much excitement, to the point where sold out that limited run at second stage. You've transferred to the Belasco now. What does it feel like to be in the center of one of the hottest tickets in town?
Yeah, I certainly don't take it for granted. I'm really grateful that I'm sort of old enough now to appreciate it. I've done enough work where like I can. It is such a rare thing um, for all those things to come together. To be like working on a play that you really, really love and believe in, with people that you just like endlessly admire and respect, a part that you love, and that connects with people in such a big way. It's just a kind of perfect storm. And so I'm very aware of how special the kind of moment is.
Yeah. Does anything feel different, like energetically at the Belasco? I know you have, I think, probably about 500 additional audience members there. Does that change the feeling?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, you feel it. You feel it. I feel like I honestly feel like the show sits better there. Like the show, I there was something interesting about being at the Hayes and that like the show felt like it was kind of pushing up against the walls of the theater. It's a big play.
Yeah.
Um, it's a big family drama, and it's in that tradition. And in the Belasco, I feel like it really gets to stretch out. And it's been a cool week. We're going into our second week there, and um, there's a lot to learn about the space, about the depth of the audience and the feedback from the back of the house. It's really, and it's kind of a haunted space, which is very
Mhm.
cool for the play, I feel like.
Yeah,
Um,
very much.
yeah.
Well, your character, Franz, it's an interesting character because he has such a dark past that we find out. However, your performance makes us root for him so much during this show. When you first read the script, was that ever a worry of like, well, how do I get this guy with this past to be likable and to be endearing in this way?
You know, likability and worrying about likability is a tricky thing, and it can take you down some really twisted paths, like when you're working on something. And it's not unimportant. You don't want to like alienate an audience completely. The primary thing that I think about is like is connecting, is being felt, and the person being felt and heard and seen as opposed to being liked. The audience can have whatever feelings about Franz they want to have. They're entitled to feel however they want. And I don't totally have control over that. But as long as I just want to communicate as much as I think is true about him as is possible to them. And Lila and I and Brendan, we all sort of made the decision early on to kind of invest in his best intentions. Um, it is complicated what they're doing, him and River, and it's a complicated situation, but we made the decision to invest in the idea that um, he was sincere in his desire to get to be better
Mm.
and to be different.
It highlights something in the script for me, in Brandon Jacob Jenkins' script. There's a lot of drama in it. However, no matter how dark it can get, it still keeps the audience laughing.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting tone. How difficult is it to navigate that tone, or is that something you're also just not kind of putting in the back of your head a little bit?
Um, you try not to think about it too consciously now. I mean, it is certainly something that we had to think about a lot, like that we had to learn a lot about. I think both in the rehearsal room and then a whole new set of learning once we got in front of an audience and found out how the play interacted with them, how they responded to things. Because it is this kind of insane highwire act of a play. It walks this real like razor's edge between um, uh, the funny and the awful, the hysterical and the horrible. And sometimes you want it to tip a little more in one direction than the other. And so we've learned like, oh, we sort of want to, this laugh we kind of want to kill. It's sort of helpful over here to try and lean this way. And so it makes the play a really alive thing to be doing every night, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think one of the moments of yours that stands out to me is Franz's apology to his siblings because he's so, earnest and he feels like he has to do this to kind of complete his journey. And then Sarah Paulson just has so much venom to spew at him. What
Yeah.
is it like facing off with Sarah Paulson in that moment?
Well, it's two things. I mean, it's on the one hand, as an actor, it's incredibly great. Um, there is just like nothing better than being on stage with Sarah Paulson. Like I mean, I say this a lot, but I just really believe that I just wish that everybody could feel what it's like. Like it is very great. She's an incredible an incredible force to be on stage with and to play with. And so on the one hand, there's that excitement as an actor, getting to do that with her. And then of course it's very awful. It's in a lot of ways like a worst case scenario for an amends, almost. Um, she I think she says a lot of things to me that I was that she articulates a lot of things that Franz is afraid of are true about him. And it's an extremely painful moment. I think that he hears very deeply. I think he takes what she says really to heart, and it sort of propels him through the rest of the play. You I think he believes her.
Yeah. And it's interesting to watch because you play siblings of Sarah Paulson and Corey Stoll's character. However, they have been in contact with each other throughout the years. Franz has really been absent for a very long time.
Yeah,
So the same type of relationship is not really there.
yeah.
Uh, how did that affect the way you kind of built and focused on the character relationships within that trio?
Well, say a lot of work is done for you by the writing and also by the other actors. I mean, but the writing, Brandon obviously created that relationship and those dynamics, and they exist in the writing in a really vivid way. And so a lot of that is just takes care of itself in a certain way, or guides you through the process. Like helps you build that relationship. I mean, honestly, to me, I sort of found myself really interacting with Corey and Sarah as if they were my parents.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I think there's a lot of standing in for mom and dad that's going on in the play, and that sort of happened historically with them. We didn't talk about this very much.
Mm.
We just sort of there wasn't a lot of like conversational consensus about, you're the wayward son. I'm thinking about you as my mom. You know, um, when actors are as good as they are and the writing's that good, you can just sort of like do that work quietly and pay attention to them, and it'll just happen.
Yeah. And speaking of actors, you have there was a switch when you moved to the Belasco because you're
Yeah,
working a lot with Elle Fanning, who plays
yeah,
River, and now it's Ella Beatty.
yeah.
What has that been like suddenly, all the way into the run, there's a new person there who's one of your main scene partners. Are there new discoveries with the character in that relationship?
Oh yeah, of course. It's totally different person, totally different actor, and the relationship's a bit different, and we're a bit different. I'm a bit different, and it's it's very sad to lose Elle. I loved her so much, and I love her so much, and it was so extraordinary getting to work with her and build out with her, um, and so it's hard to lose somebody like that. But then Ella is such an incredible gift. She's an extraordinary actress and such a warm, wonderful person. And and she's so different from Elle. And so it really does open up this whole new thing to explore for the next a couple months for this next part of the run. It's like it's very lucky. Like we just we couldn't have gotten any luckier than we did getting out.
Yeah. I've heard so many discussions and been part in so many discussions about like what this play is truly about because I
No,
think Brandon has inserted there's a lot packed in here, a lot of different themes packed in to this story, some overt, some not. Uh, when you're working on it, have you kind of like landed on particular themes that you're really honing in on in this play that you feel like it is about?
well, sure. I have in someone, like I have through the process tried to keep myself a little in the dark about some of those things because I feel like that's where Franz is.
Mm,
That he's not totally conscious. He's like thrust into this position before he's really ready to be there. He's not quite ready to make an amends. He's not quite ready to reconcile with his family. But his father dies, and now he has to. But I do think there's a lot in the play, and for me in the play um, about trauma, about individual and collective trauma, about how to restore, confront, and recover from these things. Um, uh, what do we do with our history, both as individuals and as a collective? Um, how does the way we've treated other people in the past affect us? How does the way we've been treated affect us and the way we treat other people? I mean, there's so much happening, and yeah, it's really wild. It's a wild play to live inside of. You really feel it being on stage inside of it, like all this stuff going on all the time. It's really crazy.
yeah. It's crazy also to hear conversations after the show
Oh man, I
ends
bet.
because everyone is latching on to different aspects that affect them, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And
well,
there's this like deep, deep, horrifying wound in the heart of the play, you know, and nobody is really able to. That nobody is able really to contend with it in a real way.
mm. Well, I also want to, if you'll indulge me, to take a little walk down memory lane with you because I think the last time I saw you on Broadway was in The Last Ship,
Oh, let's
uh,
go.
which, was a show I know I loved and many of us in the theater community uh, had a great love for. And not only did you get to lead a big Broadway musical, but you got to share the stage with Sting,
Yeah.
which must have been pretty cool. What did you kind of learn and take away from that experience performing with someone like that?
Oh man. I mean, it was a huge experience. It was a very, very huge experience that I continue to learn from. You know what I mean? I'll keep learning from it my whole life, I think. I think from Sting in particular, um, you know, he, he, wow. He's extremely generous performer. It is a wild thing to be on stage with someone who commands so much attention so easily. And it's so easy for him to just turn it on and be like one of the biggest rock stars ever. But he wasn't doing that for them. He was an actor. um, and he really let us into both on stage and off, both like while we were rehearsing it and then performing with him, into like a really private part of his experience, I feel like. And so I felt a lot of responsibility, a lot of privilege, and a lot of love from him doing it. He's a really beautiful guy. He came to Appropriate and was just like,
Oh,
I hadn't seen him in years, and it was beautiful. He's just he's a really loving person.
that's great. I'm glad you had a reunion.
Yeah.
Um, and if we look ahead, you're also featured in the upcoming series Fallout,
Oh
which
yeah.
is adapting I think one of the most popular franchises of video games ever. It's a big post-apocalyptic world. What is it like going from family drama on stage, this super intimate show appropriate, and then
Yeah.
playing on this massive, massive scale of Fallout.
Yeah, it's very wild. I mean, it's very wild. I mean, luckily, that is all shot. But um, the funny thing about those worlds on film is they can also feel very intimate. Like it's not that different a feeling in a certain way because appropriate is its own vast imaginary sort of landscape and this kind of huge world in itself. And when you're shooting something, um, it really can come down to very intimate sort of blocks and like scenes and building blocks. And you have a sense of existing within this like massive framework that's very exciting. Also, as like a huge Fallout nerd, it was like I was losing my mind, like just like being at the vaults
Yeah.
and like the Pit Boy and like I mean, I was
Uh-huh.
losing my mind. Um, so no one is more excited than me. But in terms of that feeling, it still comes down to the same stuff. You're still just like listening and talking to another person. Um, and it's just with all this wild shit going on around you. It's really cool.
Well, there's also some wild stuff happening on stage. So thank you
Right.
so much for sitting down with me, Michael. Appropriate is amazing. Go catch it at the Belasco. And if you're watching out there, stay subscribed to Gold Derby. Stick with us the rest of this season. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.